In this movie, I'll show you how to expand the contents of a layer, which is where things get really interesting where the layers panel is concerned. And that's because all of a sudden you have another means of object level control. You can lock and unlock specific objects. You can hide and show them. You can locate an object inside the layers panel, and you can gain access to the contents of things like the compound shapes that we saw in the previous chapter. So here I am looking at this project from Deeks Techniques 207 about creating your own custom Grumpy Bird. And let's say I'm trying to select something inside this document, and I click right about here. Now, this is a pretty complex illustration because it contains dynamic effects about which we will learn more in a future chapter of this very course. But let's say I want to lock this object down so I don't accidentally select it in the future, because notice if I drag it, this rectangle is somehow these rolling hills in the background. And that is not something that I have any desire to mess up. So a long time option has been to go up to the object menu, choose lock, and then choose selection, or you have that keyboard shortcut of Control 2 or Command 2 on the Mac. That's not a command I suggest you use, or a shortcut you should assign to memory, because there's a much better way to work these days. What you want to do now is notice first what layer you're working in, which is the back layer here inside the layers panel. And by the way, I'm going to need some more room to work. So I'm going to go ahead and drag these panels right here, which contain the Pathfinder panel, and put them back in the icon column. And then I'll twirl open this layer and I'll go searching for this item, and it's right there. I can tell that it's selected because it has a little purple square right next to it. And so if I want to lock it, I'll just go ahead and click right there in a lock icon, and that will lock it down. Of course, I can unlock the object by clicking on that icon again. However, in my case, I definitely want to lock it down, and then I accidentally select this, and I can see that it's this item right here, so I'll go ahead and lock it down, and so forth. Another option is to hide and show an object. So let's say I click on this thick boundary right here. It's part of the bird layer, and so just so I can see things a little better, I'm going to twirl this back layer closed by clicking on its triangle. And then I'll twirl this bird layer open, or even better, rather than searching up and down this stack, I'll just go to the Layers Panel flyout menu and I will choose Locate Object, at which point Illustrator will automatically twirl open that layer and show me the selected object right there. And let's say what I want to do with it is hide it, then I would just click on its eyeball in order to hide it, or click again to show the object. Now let's say I go ahead and turn off a bunch of eyeballs here. I want you to know that there's a command to bring everything back. So if you go up to the object menu, you have the option of choosing Unlock All, which will unlock every single object inside your illustration. Or in my case, what I want is Show All, which is going to show every single object in the illustration. And it's going to select them too, so I know exactly what objects I just got done revealing. All right, now I'm going to press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac to deselect the object. And I'm going to click right here inside the bird. And I want you to notice up here on the far left side of the control panel, this is a compound shape that contains a bunch of live subpaths, just as we saw in the previous chapter. Well, one way to gain access to those subpaths so that I can edit the contents of this compound shape is to, of course, double-click inside the object in order to enter the isolation mode. And then I could, for example, select this shape right here and drag it around to modify the highlight on the edge of the bird. Problem is, I can't really see what I'm doing in this mode. I'm not really getting a sense of what's happening here. And that's because of the dimming that's occurring in the background. So I'm going to escape out of the isolation mode, press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac in order to deselect the object. And what I'll do is I'll just click once again on this big compound shape. And I'll go to the Layers panel, click on the flyout menu icon, and once again choose Locate Object. And that is going to not only find the object right here inside this bird layer, but it's going to expand it as well. And so here we are with an expanded version of that compound shape. So I could go ahead and twirl it closed, but if I want access to the individual subpaths, I need to twirl it open like so. And then notice these little circles in this right-hand column. They are formerly known as target icons. Internally, inside Adobe, they're known as meatballs. So take your pick. What I'm going to do is click in this guy right there, the top one, to target this subpath right there, at which point I can now modify its placement using the black arrow tool because I took a moment to target it first here inside the Layers panel. Then if I want to target this guy and see what in the heck's going on with him, I could click on this so-called meatball, and then I could drag this shape around, which ends up affecting all 3 of his feathers, as you can see inside the document window. And then if ever you decide you want to clean up your Layers panel a little bit, you can just click the down pointing triangle in front of the layer name in order to twirl that layer close, and you can press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac in order to deselect everything. And that's how you expand the contents of a layer to reveal every single object on that layer, regardless of how buried or small, here inside Illustrator.